I'm waiting for it to come out. Good morning. Are we going? I think we're live. Good morning. I've got my sunglasses on because it's Sunday. And besides, it just looks so cool. But anyway, no, I'm not going to keep my sunglasses on. But we are drawing near to the end of our reading of the Chicken Kabbalah of Rabbi Lon Ben Clifford. Um, I'm sure we've got three or four more installments here on this rather lengthy last chapter. But I'm thinking about what life would be like for me if I didn't do this every morning. And I don't like the thought of it. So I'm thinking about starting a new book in next coming days here so that we don't miss our even one morning of our mornings together. And I'm getting a lot of encouragement to read certain titles from everybody. But our good friend Marguerite uh, is pressuring me into reading some of my books that are more narrative in nature rather than textbook in nature. And I'm thinking about starting to read Low Magic. It's a book that came out a few years ago, and it centers on actually doing magic rather than just talking about magic and the various magical operations that a lot of people would consider low magic type things to actually get things done on in your everyday life kind of. So I'm just sort of putting it out there to see if there would be any interest in me starting to read Low Magic after we finish the Chicken Kabbalah. So that's food for thought. Until then, we are on Gematria, Notericon, Temura, and Games Kabbalists Play. These are notes toward an address by Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford to the graduating students of the Zerubbabel Institute of Philosophical Youth. I've titled today's talk Gematria, Notericon, and Temura, Games Kabbalists Play. I can tell by the looks on your guileless faces that you've been looking forward to this discourse. After all, isn't this what most of you think Kabbalah is all about? Playing games with numbers and letters and words until you decipher a personal message from God explaining the secrets of creation and affirming the fact that you are the holy chosen one? Well, my hapless hatchlings, by playing these games you can indeed discover the secrets of creation. You may even become afflicted with the knowledge that you are in fact the holy chosen one. For God's sake, please don't tell anybody. But I think it's only fair to warn you that Kabbalistic games are very powerful and different from any other games you have ever played. First of all, we need to know why you are encouraged to play these mind-bending games. Let's start by reviewing what we've learned from the 10 command rants. Number 1, all is one. Realization of the one is the second to the last goal of all Kabbalists. Second command rant, the first command rant is a lie. All is nothing. The final goal is to attain consciousness of nothing. 3. There really isn't a creation, a time or a space or a heaven and earth, but there is a you. Aren't you happy to hear that? 4. We perceive there is a creation, time, space, heaven, and earth, because of a fundamental defect in our powers of perception. Our faulty powers of perception keep us trapped in illusionary existence. In illusionary existence. This, number 5, this defect cannot be repaired, but it can be overcome. And how do we overcome this defect? Number 6, in order to overcome our defective powers of perception, we must be willing to abuse them until they break. Bingo. But this can be very dangerous. It may be true that every enlightened sage is insane, but it does not necessarily follow that every insane person is an enlightened sage. We must employ discipline and strictly limit our techniques of self-abuse to fundamental observation of the illusionary universe around us. These observations reveal to us that, number 7, everything in heaven and earth is connected to everything else in heaven and earth. 8, everything in heaven and earth is a reflection of everything in heaven and earth. And number 9, everything in heaven and earth contains the pattern of everything in heaven and earth. You are not likely to gain enlightenment simply by examining all the things in illusionary heaven and earth. But it is possible to achieve realization of the one, which is the second to the last goal, by profound and transcendent awareness that you are an indispensable component of the connections, reflections, and patterns of the Supreme Being. Number 10, look hard enough at anything and you'll eventually see everything. The object of your observation can be anything at all. Kabbalists have learned, however, that some things reveal the divine connection reflection pattern easier than others. Mathematics is the most profound example because it lays bare to the tenacious student the very structure of the universe. Language is another excellent tool for spiritual dissection because, by its very nature, it is a vehicle of connections, reflections, and patterns. Language evokes and transfers images from mind to mind in a manner not too dissimilar to the creative fiat of the mythological gods of creation. Orthodox Kabbalists believe that Hebrew is the most sacred of all languages, and that the letters of the Hebrew alphabet are both the building blocks of creation and the tools that put them back together. They believe the Holy Scriptures were divinely inspired and originally written in Hebrew to veil and reveal layer upon layer of ever-deepening spiritual truth. Certainly, for devoted Jewish Kabbalists, this is the case, whether or not there is any historic validity to their beliefs or not. As a chicken Kabbalist, I have the greatest respect for the remarkable ways parts of the Bible yield astounding treasures to the tinkering student. Furthermore, I give thanks to the great poulterer. I think that's what the rabbi calls God, the great poulterer, that we have at our disposal that vast body of sectarian literature, hundreds of years of self-referential material, including the classic Kabbalistic texts that employ biblical passages as springboards for the most illuminating exegesis. This material remains the foundation of our study, whether or not we choose to embrace any of the religious aspects of the work, and this, dear student, is what separates us from our Orthodox brothers and sisters. We are not Kabbalists to prove that the Bible is holy. We are Kabbalists because everything is holy. Look hard enough at anything and you will eventually see everything. Right now, right here where you are. God is talking to you from the pages of the Bible, the Quran, the Vedas, from the funny papers, billboards, street signs, ticket stubs, and automobile license plates. We don't always have to be quick to tinker with the letters and numbers when we use the techniques of Gematria, Notarikon, or Temura. We are perpetually bombarded by countless numbers nestled within the billions of impressions we process every day. How many times do we write the date? What's 57 doing on a jar of pickles? We listen to the top 40, watch the news at 7, and go to work by taking the 405 freeway to the 55 to the 5 to the 101. The ancient Kabbalists didn't spend much time on the turnpike and probably didn't listen to the top 40. What they did do was spend a lot of time studying the scriptures. And as the Ten Commandments inform us, the scriptures are certainly as holy as a jar of pickles. As a matter of fact, the Bible is already crawling with numbers. Perhaps you'd like a better understanding of what Ezekiel was talking about in his famous vision. A clue might be found in the very first chapter, in the verse of his book. In English, it reads like this. Now it came to pass in the 30th year of the 4th month, on the 5th day of the month, I was among the captives by the river Chebar, that the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. Now, personally, I don't think that it was important for Ezekiel to make sure we all knew the exact publication date of his book. I do, however, think that he wanted to make it perfectly clear that he might be writing about something other than his psychedelic escapades with flying saucers, four-headed aliens, and dancing skeletons. The first verse we find the numbers 34 and 5, or the Hebrew letters Lamet, Dalet, and He, or the Hebrew word Lamed, Dalet, He, which means birth. The second verse has a similar message. In the 5th day of the month, of which was the 5th year of King Jehoiakim's captivity, we find 5 and 5, or the Hebrew word He, which means window. A window is something through which we observe. It also permits light to enter. So, birth, the result of penetrating light, perhaps. Light penetrating where? The book of Ezekiel sounds a little more intriguing now, doesn't it? Take a peek at how chapter 8 starts out. And it came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, that I sat in mine house, and the elders of Judah sat before me, and the hand of the Lord God fell upon me. Okay, here we find the numbers 6, 6, and 5. Now, I couldn't find any significant words that spelled VVH, or Vav He, or even He Vav. But when I put the three numbers side by side, I see the number 665, which is the sum of the Hebrew words that spell out the word the womb. Which certainly seem to carry on the theme that was started in chapter 1, verse 1. Light penetrating the womb, which gives birth. Gives birth to what? Chapter 20 might tell us. It begins with even more numbers. And it came to pass in the 7th year, in the 5th month, on the 10th day of the month, that certain of the elders of Israel came to inquire of the Lord and sat before me. Okay, number 7,510. Well, we can really get bogged down on numbers that large, but if we reduce the 10 to a 1, we get the number 751. Which is the sum total of the Hebrew word for finished man, or perfected man. Thus, by investigating the numbers that are mentioned openly in these 4 verses, we find ourselves teased with the concept of light penetrating the womb, giving birth to the perfected man. Now, was that the message Ezekiel was trying to convey? Probably not. But who cares? Whatever it was the old boy was originally trying to say shrinks to insignificance. It's far more important to my spiritual enlightenment that my mind was forced to churn at breakneck speed to put all of this together and then open itself up to the infinite potentialities of meaning. Look hard enough at anything and you'll eventually see everything. It doesn't even have to make much sense what you connect to what. It's all ultimately connected. Don't you see? The Kabbalah doesn't enable me to merely interpret what somebody else meant to say. It forces me to hear what I need to hear. Each time I make another connection on paper, I'm creating a new connection in my head, or perhaps reattaching a connection that was disconnected from the heads of our ancestors vast ages ago. And I'm one step nearer to the realization that everything in heaven and earth is connected to everything in heaven and earth. I'll now leave Ezekiel to the pizza cutter of your own wit. Time is short, and I must push on with the subjects of Gematria, Notericon, and Tamura, by which we can wring even more truths and holy lies from numbers and words. Please remember that these are not only ways to warm up your cosmic translator, but they are certainly 3 ways, classic, tried and true methods of the Chicken Kabbalah. And that's where we'll stop today. Be thinking if you might enjoy me picking up with low magic after this is over, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Be good to yourself and be good to each other. Love is the law, love under will. Bye-bye.